أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون وسواء عليهم أأنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم اثنين فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب أليم قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون أتخذ من دونه آلهة إن يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغني عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون قيل ادخلوا الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا منه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وأعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالعرجون القديم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشاء نغرقهم فلا شريك لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آيات من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم امتاز اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسكناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نؤمره ننكسه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وزللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم ير الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون. سورة المباركة الفاتحة.
محمد وعلى محمد صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. एक बार फिर सलवात पढ़िए. ला इलाहा तो पढ़ लिया अब ले मजा तासीर का ला इलाहा की तय के नीचे खून है शबीर का ला इलाहा के पढ़ने वालों ला इलाहा से पूछ लो ला इलाहा तो बच गया घर लुट गया शबीर का. सलवात पढ़िए. मोहम्मद का घरा ना करबलावा ले बेअबा में मोहम्मद का घरा ना करबलावा ले बेअबा में कयामत की खिज़ा छाई है ज़हरा के गुलिस्तान में कयामत की खिज़ा छाई है ज़हरा के गुलिस्तान में मुहम्मद का घरा ना करबलावा ले बेअबा में कहाँ हो तुम अली अकबर जरा आवाज तो देना कहाँ हो तुम अली अकबर जरा आवाज तो देना अकेला रह गया है फातिमा का लाल मैदान में अकेला रह गया है फातिमा का लाल मैदान में जमीने करबला इसको जरा आराम से रखना जमीने करबला इसको जरा आराम से रखना सुलाया है अली असगर को शाने तेरे दामा में सुलाया है अली असगर को शाने तेरे दामा में जो लूटा करबला में तो मुसलमानों ने क्या लूटा जो लूटा करबला में तो मुसलमानों ने क्या लूटा अली की बेटियों की चादरें आई हैं सामा में अली की बेटियों की चादरें आई हैं सामा में गिरे बां चाक सर में खा ज़ैनब के बंदे बाजू गिरे बां चाक सर में खा ज़ैनब के बंदे बाजू भला पहचानती क्या हिंद इस हाले परेशान में भला पहचानती क्या हिंद इस हाले परेशान में मोहम्मद का घराना करबलावा ले बेअबा में सलवात पढ़िएगा। ये आखिरी कलाम मैं आप लोगों की खिदमत में पेश करने लगा बहुत नया कलाम है और पहली बार मैं खुद भी पढ़ रहा हूँ सलवात पढ़िएगा। और ये इस मंजर कशी करेगा जब मौला हुसैन अलैहिस्सलाम शहादत के लिए जा रहे थे और बीबी सकीना अपने बाबा से गुफ्तगू कर रहे थे। सलवात पढ़िएगा। तुम तो मकतल में बसर रात करो गे बाबा, तुम तो मकतल में बसर रात करो गे बाबा, कब सकीना से मुलाकात करोगे बाबा, कब सकीना से मुलाकात करोगे बाबा, तुम तो मकतल में बसर रात करो गे बाबा। बाबा जिस वक्त बंधा होगा रसन में ये गला, नेज़े और नेज़े पे तेरा सर भी करेगा गिरिया, मुझसे इस हाल में क्या बात करोगे बाबा, मुझसे इस हाल में क्या बात करोगे बाबा, तुम तो मकतल में बसर रात करो गे बाबा। बाबा ये शीर तो रोने भी नहीं देगा मुझे, नींद आएगी तो सोने भी नहीं देगा मुझे, दिल पे महसूस ये सदमात करोगे बाबा, तुम तो मकतल में बसर रात करो गे बाबा। मुझको मालूम है अब घर ना कभी जाऊंगी, घुट के जिंदा के अंधेरों में मर जाऊंगी, मेरे बिन कैसे बसर रात करोगे बाबा, तुम तो मकतल में बसर रात करो गे बाबा। और आखिरी शेर है इसका। अम्मा कहती थी कि असगर भी नहीं आएगा, शब की तारीकी में भैया मेरा घबराएगा,
दूर कब तुम ये ख्यालात करोगे बाबा, दूर कब गम के ख्यालात करोगे बाबा, कब सकीना से मुलाकात करोगे बाबा, तुम तो मकतल में बसर रात करोगे बाबा।
तमाम मोमिन इस इत्माद से कि मेरे ब्रदर इन लॉ और मेरे फादर इन लॉ बहुत सख्त हलील हैं, और मौला बीमार करबला सईदुल साजिदीन अलैहिस्सलाम की बीमारी के सदके मौला उनको सेहत कामिला आजिला अता फरमाए, और मेरी वालदा और मेरे वालिदैन के लिए सूरह फातिहा। सलावत मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद।
Let us all recite 5 times I am Mujibu for all those who are sick, for the safety of the Muslims, for the safety of our holy places, for the safety from all the sicknesses and all those in need of du'as. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Amma yujibu mustar أما يجيب مضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء، أما يجيب مضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء، أما يجيب مضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء، أما يجيب مضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. كل أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات. سورة مباركة الفاتحة. بر حبیب خدا ختم الانبیاء محمد و آل محمد صلوات.
رحم الله من قرأ سورة الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله، والصلاة والسلام على إمام القبلتين ونبي الحرمين وأفضل الثقلين وجد الحسن والحسين، الذي سمي في السماء بأحمد وفي الأرض بأبي القاسم محمد. وعلى آل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الصادقين، والذين ذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل وسلم وزد وبارك على صاحب الدعوة النبوية والصولة الحيدرية والإسمة الفاطمية والحلم الحسنية والشجاعة الحسينية والعبادة السجادية والمآثر الباقرية والآثار الجعفرية والعلوم الكاذمية والحجج الرذبية والجود الثقفية والنقابة النكبية والحيبة العسكرية والغيبة الإلهية اللهم عجل فرجه وسهل مخرجه. أما بعد، فقد قال الله في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم: ولا تقولوا لمن يقتل في سبيل الله أموات بل أحياء ولكن لا تشعرون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. For the love of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. For the love of Sayyid al-Shuhada, a second salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. For the hastening of the reappearance of the master of our time, a louder salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. When one examines the different genres of literature within the early Islamic centuries, they'll find that there was a diverse genre of literature which had emerged. Some of them would, for example, examine the Quran. We find the literature of tafasir. You find some would examine the du'as. You find some would examine the traditions. But without a doubt, one of those genres of literature which was unique to the school of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam was that genre known as Ziyarat, or visitation. Because when you look at other schools of thought, you find the Quran is common amongst all Muslims. When you look at the Hadith, although our definition of Hadith extends to Ahlul Bayt, you find the Hadith are present amongst all Muslims. When you look at du'as, you find du'as are present amongst all Muslims. But what makes the school of Ahlul Bayt unique in one way is the presence of ziyarah. And this is why Henry Corban, the famous researcher, would say that if there is a religion which has kept the connection to the divine by understanding the vicegerent of God, then it's Shia Islam upon this earth today. And this is why when you look at ziyarat, they carry a fundamental importance, but there's many questions that need to be asked. That what is the value of ziyarah? What is the etiquette of ziyarah? And what position does ziyarah occupy within the school of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam? And this is why tonight we'll discuss in depth that what is the spiritual backdrop and the mindset approaching the ziyarat literature. Because you find that ziyarah is something which we recite time and time again within our life. On the day of Ashura, we recite ziyarah. Thursday nights, we recite ziyarah. On the day of Eid, the 15th of Sha'ban, in a Rajab, we find that it's something which is common in our calendar. But what is that mindset that we need as we approach this genre of literature? You see, the first point to understand that when it comes to ziyarah, whether you are visiting the Imam in person or you are reciting these lines from afar, the first point to understand is that these ziyarat, they come from the Imams of Ahlul Bayt. And this is a fundamental point. Because within these ziyarat, the Imams of Ahlul Bayt are teaching us how to address Ahlul Bayt. They're saying, we understand you are our Shia. We understand that you love us. But the peak of love is that you don't bring your own opinions. Even when you visit us, you address us the way we've taught you for us to be addressed. And this is that reality. You see, each line of this ziyarat should be studied. Each word should be studied. Because the moment you begin to study these ziyarat, you are understanding the fadail of Ahlul Bayt, not from a khatib, but from Ahlul Bayt themselves. And when you're able to do that, your idea of Karbala will be the idea which Imam Sadiq has given. Your idea of Karbala will be that Karbala which Imam al-Baqir has given, When somebody tries to skew your understanding, at that point it won't affect you because you understood the words of Ahlul Bayt. But when you look at these ziyarat, what treasures of ma'rifah do we find in these ziyarat? For example, in one ziyarah, when we address Amir al-Mu'mineen, we say, Assalamu alayka ya Nur Allah fi dhulumat al-ard. That, O Ali, salam be upon you, for you are the light of Allah upon the darkness of this earth. That you see, the nature of this world is trial and tribulation. That there are many individuals, days of happiness, they come towards them. After that, they have a problem. They have a challenge. That within this world, this material world is not a world of permanence. It's a world of darkness. But if in this world there is any solace, we say, O Amir al-Mu'mineen, you are that light within the darkness of this world. We find in another ziyarah, we say, Assalamu alayka ya Amin Allah fi ardihi. That you are that trustworthy one of Allah upon this earth. So we find that when it comes to ziyarah, when you recite these ziyarat, you are not addressing somebody who is dead, but you are addressing someone who is alive and in front of you. As the verse says, وَلَا تَقُولُوا لِمَنْ يُقْتَلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتًا بَلْ أَحْيَاءٌ وَلَكِنْ لَا تَشْعُرُونَ. That don't say those killed in the way of Allah are dead, rather they're alive, but you don't comprehend their life. When we recite in Ibn Dukhul, when we go towards Karbala, when we go to Najaf Samara, we ask for permission to enter. And when we ask for permission to enter, we say, وَأَعْلَمُ أَنَّ رَسُولَكَ وَخُلَفَاءَكَ أَحْيَاءٌ عِنْدَكَ يُرْزَقُونَ يَرَوْنَ مَقَامِي وَيَسْمَعُونَ كَلَامِي وَيُرِدُّونَ السَّلَامِ. That we say that, oh, we recognize, oh Allah, that your prophet and these awliya, they are alive receiving sustenance from you. And they see our status, they hear our words, they reply towards our salam. You see, many ulama discuss that when you send salam, it is wajib for somebody to reply to your salam. That when we go towards Sayyid al-Shuhada, and we say Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah, it is wajib for that reply to come. But that reply doesn't come in this physical world that we hear with our ears. The ulama say that reply is that raghba and desire for ziyarah within your heart. That reply to that salam towards Sayyid al-Shuhada is that desire for ziyarah. It's that ma'rifah of the Imam. And this is that reality of ziyarah. You see, the first angle of discussion tonight is that we need to understand what is the essence of ziyarah. And over here, when you look at the Quran, you find the Quran gives a general principle for us to understand the essence of ziyarah. When you look at the Quran, you find that there are two realms of reality which the Quran is pointing towards. The first is this physical realm. You see, this world is called the dunya. The word dunya is the feminine form of the word adna, meaning the most low. Because this reality of this world is that this is the world where much is veiled. The Quran, when speaking about this level of existence, it says, لَقَدْ كُنْتَ فِي غَفْلَةٍ مِّنْ هَذَا فَكَشَفْنَا عَنْكَ غِطَاءَكَ فَبَصَرُكَ الْيَوْمَ حَدِيدٌ. That it says on the day of judgment, when everything is unveiled, Allah will say that of these realities, you used to be in heedlessness, in ghafla, but now we have revealed that for you. So you see, this is one level of existence, but behind that is that realm which is called Wajhullah. That realm where realities are there. You see, the Quran, it says in Surah Ar-Rahman, كُلُّ مَنْ عَلَيْهَا فَانٍ وَيَبْقَى وَجْهُ رَبِّكَ ذُو الْجَلَالِ وَالْإِكْرَامِ. That everything will perish. But what will remain is the face of Allah Dhul Jalali wal Ikram. After that, we find in another verse, it says, فَإِنَّمَا تُوَلُّوا فَتَمَّ وَجْهُ اللَّهِ. Wherever you turn, you will find the face of Allah. You see, this is in reference that beyond this material world, there is this realm where if one is able to reach that realm, they will understand realities which are beyond this world. And the Quran alludes that people are able to do this. It says about the muttaqoon, in tattaqullah, yaj'al lakum furqana, that if you have taqwa, Allah will give you the ability to distinguish between right and wrong. So you see, this is that reality of wajhullah. And you say to me that you say wajhullah, can anyone practically reach such a station? Is it possible for one to reach such a reality? We say, oh Allah, show us within the Quran a group of people who have reached such a reality. And you'll find in Surah Al-Insan, there was that group that says, إِنَّمَا نُطْعِمُكُمْ لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ لَا نُرِيدُ مِنْكُمْ جَزَاءً وَلَا شُكُورًا. That we only give towards you seeking that wajhullah, nor do we want any thanks or any reward for this. You see, the reality of Ziada, I come towards the reality of Ziada. The point I was making is that there are two levels of reality. The first is that physical reality, then there is beyond that physical reality. When you go to the Ziyara of Sayyid al-Shuhada, there are two elements of this ziyarah. One is the physical recitation or the physical presence by the grave with your body. But the second is the presence of your heart over there. That's why when many define ziyarah, they said it is ittihad al-za'ir wal-maz'ur. That when you are reciting the ziyarah, the goal is for you to connect with the one that you're visiting. So when you visit Sayyid al-Shuhada, the first level is the presence of the body. But the second level is that you come with the realization that you are entering that sanctuary where God's malaika are within that sanctuary. It's stated that on the day of Ashura, 4,000 angels come to Sayyid al-Shuhada. This riwayah is in Kamil al-Ziyarat. And when they offer help towards the Imam says, no, I am going to sacrifice myself. You see, Sayyid al-Shuhada, when he made this sacrifice, it wasn't the circumstances of history made him majboor and made him be forced into this. Sayyid al-Shuhada out of his will chose this sacrifice. But the tradition says, those angels, they remain by the grave of Sayyid al-Shuhada and they pray for forgiveness for the zawar of Sayyid al-Shuhada. That at that level, after the presence of the body, you recognize you are in the sanctuary of God's malaika. That's why there's an adab and etiquette when you enter the shrine. There's an etiquette when you leave the shrine. There is an etiquette when you recite ziyarah. But further than that, it is that realization when you recite the ziyarah or you go on ziyarah, is that you are in front of the nur of Sayyid al-Shuhada. You are in front of that Imam who is called Wajhullah. When you look at the ziyarah of the 15th of Sha'ban, when we address Imam Al-Hussein in the ziyarah of the 15th of Sha'ban, we say, Ashhadu annaka Nurullah alladhi lam yutfa wa la yutfa abadan. That, O Hussein, we testify that you are that light of Allah that was never extinguished, nor will you be extinguished. Wa annaka wajhallah. That you are that face of Allah, alladhi lam yahlik wa la yuhlak abada. And you are that face of Allah that was never destroyed, nor will you be destroyed. So the reality is this, is that when you are in the presence of the Imam, you are at the doorstep of Allah. That's why when Sheikh Abbas al-Qummi, He wrote about the adab of ziyarah. He writes that dua where you say, Allahumma bi babika waqaftu. That, oh Allah, I stand at your door. I say, why is this dua there? That, oh Allah, I am at the door of Ali bin Abi Talib. I am at the door of Sayyid al-Shuhada. But Allah says, no, in reality, this is my door. These are that pathway for you to reach me. That this is that reality. That these are those ai there's a tradition of Imam Ali al-Hadi. That when Imam Ali al-Hadi was in prison, and he was in house arrest, one of the companions of the Imam comes to the Imam and he says to him that there is a tradition of your grandfather that I don't understand. You see, this is how the ulum of Ali Muhammad was passed. The Imam is in prison. This companion is going to that prison to learn a hadith from Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. He says to Imam Ali al-Hadi, that is it true that your grandfather said, La tu'adil ayyam fatu'adikum, that do not oppose the days, so the days will oppose you. On the outward, how can one oppose the days? And how can the days oppose somebody? This is a natural reality. It doesn't have shu'ur. It doesn't have thinking. It doesn't have free will. The Imam replies by saying, Nahnul ayyam. Us Ahlul Bayt are those days. He says, if you want to understand, Saturday is the day of Rasulullah. Sunday is the day of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Monday is the day of Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein. That Tuesday is the day of Imam Zain al-Abidin, Imam al-Baqir, Imam al-Sadiq. Wednesday is the day of Imam al-Qadim, Imam al-Rida, Imam al-Jawad, Imam Ali al-Hadi. He says Thursday is the day of Ibn al-Hassan, my son Hassan al-Askari. And the day of Jummah is that day of my son Al-Qa'im al-Mahdi. You see, I said in the beginning of this series that whenever the fadail of Ahlul Bayt are mentioned, I'll go towards the hadith, the du'as, the ziyarat. You see, a similar tradition is also mentioned. Within that tradition, Jabir bin Yazid al-Ju'fi, he comes towards Imam al-Baqir. He says to Imam al-Baqir, oh Imam, there is a verse of the Quran I don't understand. Imam al-Baqir says, which verse is it? He says, it is that verse that says, Inna iddata shuhuri indallah itna ashara shahra. That the months in the eyes of Allah are 12 months. Fi kitab Allah yawma khalaqa samawati wal ard minha arba'atun hurumun. That on the day Allah created the heavens and the earth, 4 of these months are sacred. ذَلِكَ الدِّينُ الْقَيِّمُ. That is the upright religion. فَلَا تَظْلِمُوا فِيهِنَّ أَنفُسَكُمْ. And do not oppress yourself in relation to that. He says that these months, how is it possible that is the upright religion? At the end of the day, the months are a proof for us. How is that religion? Imam al-Baqir says, Nahnu shuhur. That us Ahlul Bayt are those months, was sana Rasulullah, the year is Rasulullah. In the way a year isn't completed until you go through 12. One cannot reach the true Risala of Rasulullah until he goes through the 12 Imams of Ahlul Bayt. And then the verse says, وَذَلِكَ دِينُ الْقَيِّمُ. That is that upright religion. But you see, this is that reality of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. That when you stand at their doorstep, you are standing at the doorstep of those individuals who are that door towards Allah. And when you come towards Ziyarat, as I mentioned, there is the physical Ziyarat of the body, but at the second level, there is that Ziyarat of the heart where one recognizes the presence of that Imam. That's why when you look at the hadith, right? The hadith have 2 different ways of saying do the Ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein. And this is an important point. Some hadiths say Zur Qabr al-Hussein, that do the Ziyarah of the grave of Imam al-Hussein. But other hadiths say Surah al-Hussein do the Ziyara of Imam al-Hussein. Now, what is the difference between do the Ziyara of the grave of Imam al-Hussein and do the Ziyara of Imam al-Hussein? Ulama, they stated that these two stages of the physical presence and the presence of the heart are being referred. When it says do the ziyara of the grave of Imam al-Hussein, this is referring to that physical presence over there. As in when Muhammad bin Muslim narrates from Imam Sadiq, he says, Muru shi'atina bi ziyarati qabri Abi Abdullah, that our Shia should go to the grave of Imam al-Hussein. فَإِنَّ إِتْيَانَهُ, that they uphold this ziyara, recognizing the status of the Imam is something which is muftaradun alayhim, that it is mandatory upon them spiritually to go to the ziyara of Sayyid al-Shuhada. But when it says do the ziyara of Imam al-Hussein, when it says Zur al-Hussein, as in that famous tradition of Ali ibn Maymun as-Sa'id, that he goes to Imam as-Sadiq, and the Imam Sadiq says, Ya Ali Zur al-Hussein, do the ziyara of Hussein. Then Ali bin Sa'id says, what is the reward of the one who does the ziyara? The Imam says that for every footstep his sins are forgiven. And for every footstep there is reward. And that individual will be written in the highest of ranks. This goes to show that there are different levels and realities towards this ziyara. And now that we've understood this essence of ziyara, the next question which comes about this visitation is that, is this act a natural act, or is this act something which is not found within other traditions? Because many individuals, if you believe in the hadith, you accept ziyara via the hadith. If you believe in the Quran, you accept it via the Quran. But the question is this: is there anything within the fitra and the nature of a human being that shows this ziyara and visitation as something which is important? You see, the answer is yes. When you look at human beings all around, you find that mankind is in search of motivation. That motivation, or tashji in Arabic, is something that we're always looking for. If you see a child playing on the basketball court, if he sees that his friends are watching, or his parents are watching, or his coach is watching, then at that moment you find that he has more motivation. That you look at different motivational speakers. Motivational speakers are not from your religion. They're not arguing from the Quran, from the Hadith, from any text. But what they're doing is they're speaking to the nature of a human being. When it comes towards ziyara, you find that ziyara gives a natural propelling of a human being towards virtue. That when you go to the ziyara of Amir al-Mu'mineen, you say to yourself, I am visiting that man who in justice was unparalleled. And I am visiting that man who in knowledge was unparalleled. And I am visiting that man whose generosity was unparalleled, to the extent that when they asked Amir al-Mu'mineen that, oh Ali, who is more generous, you or Hatim al-Ta'i? You see, Hatim al-Ta'i was a famous proverbial figure amongst the Arabs. That for his generosity, they would have sayings about him. So they said to Ali, are you more generous, or is Hatim al-Ta'i more generous? Amir al-Mu'mineen says, tell me about the generosity of Hatim. That person says Hatim had a house. That house had 7 doors. Whenever a beggar would come and knock on the door, Hatim would give at that door. He would go to the second, give at the second door. He would go to the third, and he would do that as long as the beggar was asking. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, the difference between me and Hatim is this: that person who went to the door of Hatim had to go from door to door to door. But the one who comes to the door of Ali ibn Abi Talib, I would give so much at my door that he would not have to go to any other doorstep. That when a person sees the generosity of Amir al-Mu'mineen at this level, you find that through ziyarah, you're naturally inclined to go towards generosity. And you see, this is that impact of ziyarah on the psychology of a person. But over here, the next question comes up. Now that we've examined the essence of ziyarah, and ziyarah according to the nature of a human being, is there a Quranic position for ziyarah? And over here, you find the verse which I'll attach this discussion towards, is that verse that when Allah created Adam. One may say that how does this verse connect with ziyarah? Allah, when He creates Adam, that verse it says from Surah Al-Baqarah, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي جَائِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. That when your Lord said to the angels that I am creating my vicegerent upon this earth, that the Khalifa of Allah will be upon this world, upon this earth. You see, this was that initial answer that should one do ziyarah or not do ziyarah. The answer is this, is that wherever the Khalifa of Allah is, wherever the vicegerent of Allah is, mankind should go towards that vicegerent. Whether it is Najaf, whether it is Mashhad, whether it is Karbala. Because what is the status of the one who respects the Khalifa of Allah? You find the verse, it continues, that when Allah says to the angels, I am creating my vicegerent upon this earth. You know what the angels say? وَقَالُوا أَتَجْعَلُوا فِيهَا مَنْ يُفْسِدُ فِيهَا وَيَسْفِكُ الدِّمَاءَ. That you're creating someone who will cause fitna upon this earth. Somebody who will shed blood. وَنَحْنُ نُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِكَ وَنُقَدِّسُ لَكَ. While we are those individuals who praise you. You see from this verse, we understand the angels understood the praise of Allah. The angels understood the worship of Allah, but they weren't at the status of being the Khalifa of Allah. That's why they had to do sujood towards Adam. You find after that, Allah says, Inni a'lamu ma la ta'lamun. I know what you don't know. I know what the status of my wali is. I know what the status of my vicegerent is. You see, there's 8 places in the Quran where Allah speaks about the story of Adam. And to understand the story of Adam is to understand the story of mankind. Because although at one level, Adam represents a person in history, but Adam also represents Abul Bashar and the father of mankind. So what we see in the story of Adam is the sunnah and the method for the rest of mankind. Allah in Surah Al-Hijr in this incident, He says, وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي خَالِقٌ بَشَرًا مِنْ صَلْصَالٍ مِنْ حَمَإٍ مَسْنُونٍ. That when your Lord said to the angels, I am creating a man from dried clay made out of fashioned mud. At that point, then He says, فَإِذَا سَوَّيْتُهُ وَنَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي فَقَعُوا لَهُ سَاجِدِينَ. The moment I have fashioned him and I breathed my spirit into him, then all of you should do sajda towards Adam. You see, how does this relate towards the importance of ziyarah? It relates to the fact that those individuals who respected the vicegerent of Allah were the angels within the heavens. The one who does the respect towards the vicegerent of Allah is following the path of the angels. And then the Quran says, وَسَجَدَ الْمَلَائِكَةُ كُلُّهُمْ أَجْمَعُونَ. All of them did sajda towards Adam. إِلَّا Iblis. أَبَى أَن يَكُونَ مَعَ السَّاجِدِينَ. But Iblis is the one who refused to show respect towards the vicegerent of Allah. Now we see that those who are not showing that respect to the Khalifa of Allah, who is following the path of the angels and who is following the path of Satan and Shaitan. And this is that reality. That when you look at this verse, it said, Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa. That whenever you go to the door of Ahlul Bayt in Ziyara, you go with the recognition that you are visiting the Khalifa and the Vicegerent of Allah. You know, there's a line of poetry which is written on the grave of Amir al-Mu'mineen. And that line of poetry was written by Ibn Abil Hadid al-Mu'tazili, who was not a Shia scholar, but it's written on the grave of Amir al-Mu'mineen. That you know what he says in that line of poetry? He says, Ya barqu, in ji'ta al-gharifa kullahu, aturaka man fi ardika mawdihu. That, oh lightning, that when you come to the land of Najaf, say to the land of Najaf, that do you know who is buried within your sand? Fika ibnu Imran al-Kalim wa ba'dahu Isa yukafihi wa Ahmadu yatba'u. Within you is Musa, within you is Isa, within you is Rasulullah. I say that in Najaf, Rasulullah is not there, Musa is not there. What is the meaning of this line of poetry? The poet, he continues, بل فيك جبريل وميكال وإسرافيل والملأ المقدس أجمعوا. But in reality, within you is Jibreel and Mikael and Israfil, and all of the angels have gathered there. Then he says, بل فيك نور الله جل جلاله. But within you is the light of Allah. لذوي البصائر يلمع. For the one possessing insight, it glimmers for that. And then he answers, how is it that all of these realities are there? He says, فيك الإمام المرتضى والوسي المجتبى. That within you is that chosen Imam. That the Ziyara of Ali bin Abi Talib, you know, when you go to the Ziyara of Amir al-Mu'mineen, right? Buried by Amir al-Mu'mineen is Adam and Nuh. You would think that you send your salam upon the prophets, then Amir al-Mu'mineen. That you send your salam upon those Anbiya, then Amir al-Mu'mineen. But within the Ziyara of Amir al-Mu'mineen, you say, Assalamu alayka wa ala daji'ayka Adam wa Nuh. That, O Ali, salam be upon you and your neighbors Adam and Nuh. That the status of Ali ibn Abi Talib is this, is that if we are sending salam upon these prophets, it's through the medium of Amir al-Mu'mineen. That it wasn't the fadail of Ali to Adam and Nuh to be buried by Ali ibn Abi Talib, but it was the virtue of Adam and Nuh that they're buried by Amir al-Mu'mineen. And this is that reality of Amir al-Mu'mineen. And when you look at the traditions, you find that Ziyarat has many different impacts on the life of a person. You see, one famous scholar would say that the abundance of traditions when it comes to Ziyarat, this emphasis on the Ziyarah of Imam Al-Hussein goes to show that this institution was one which kept our deen and our faith alive. And the moment we forget the importance of Ziyarah, you find that we're losing this reality. Because Ziyarah is that movement which allows one to be with Sayyid al-Shuhada. The tradition of the Imam says, Manzar al-Hussein Yom Ashura. That the one who does the Ziyarah of the Imam on the day of Ashura and he remains there, it's as if he attains Shahada and martyrdom with Sayyid al-Shuhada. That you see that Ziyarah is a symbol of being with the Imam. At the second level, you find Ziyarah has that spiritual impact of elevating a person. That it's stated that when one goes on Ziyarah, for 40 days, that light of guidance remains within the heart of that individual. But at the third level, you find that this Ziyarah is a symbol of our deen. When you look at history, there was a reason that time and time again, rulers would try to destroy the shrine of Sayyid al-Shuhada. that Mutawakkil time and time again would destroy it. Why is it at the end of the day they would fear that? It's because that shrine was a symbol for that dhulm which was put upon Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. You see, there's a story that in the time of Mutawakkil, there was a lady who was going towards Ziyarat. And when she reaches the outskirts of Baghdad to go towards Karbala, the man says, "Oh lady, don't you know that we cut the right arm of anyone who goes to the Ziyarat of Hussein?" You know what that lady does? She lifts her left arm in front of that individual. The man says, "Oh woman, I said we cut the right arm. Why are you lifting your left arm?" She says, "I gave my right arm last year when I went towards Ziyarat." You see, there were people who sacrificed the most dear things for them in the path of Sayyid al-Shuhada. And I say this to myself, that the sacrifices I am being asked to make is nothing in comparison towards these individuals. That people would risk their own health, they would risk their children in the path of Hussein. And what are we being asked? We're being asked to give our time. We're being asked to give our effort. We're being asked to remember Sayyid al-Shuhada. That Imam, that when he reaches the land of Karbala upon this day, you can imagine that what must Sayyid al-Shuhada be thinking? Because this is that land, his grandfather told him what would happen in Karbala. You know, it's stated that when the Imam, he reaches the land of Karbala, he begins to look around to the people within that land. And he says to them, "Masmu hadihil ard," that what is the name of this land? They say, "Ismuha Ghadiriya," the name is Ghadiriya. The Imam says, "Alaha ismun akhar," that it doesn't have another name. That man says the name is Shatiul Furat. The Imam says, "No, Alaha ismun akhar," does it have another name? It's as if Sayyid al-Shuhada was waiting for one name to be called for this land. The man says it is Nainawa, it is tough. The Imam asks one more time, "Alaha ismun akhir." The man says, "Karbun wa bala," that this is the land of trial and tribulation. You know, it's stated in the riwayat that whenever each of the Anbiya would go past Karbala, they would face difficulty. That when Ibrahim goes past the land of Karbala, the animals of Ibrahim stop drinking from the Furat. Ibrahim says, "Oh Allah, what is this land?" Allah says, "Oh Ibrahim, this is that water which will be denied towards Hussein in Karbala." But you see, on this day, when Sayyid al-Shuhada, he reaches the land of Karbala, it's stated within the traditions that his sister Sayyida Zainab, she comes, she says, "Oh my brother, the moment we reach this land, there is uneasiness in my heart, oh my brother." The Imam says, "Oh Zainab, this is that final resting spot which our grandfather had told me, oh Zainab." You know what Sayyida Zainab says after that? She says, "Oh my brother, ever since we reached this land, I hear the sound of a lady crying." Sayyida Shuhada says, "Oh Zainab, do you not recognize the cries of our mother Fatima to Zahra, oh Zainab?" You see, this journey of Karbala has begun. Imam al-Hussein has reached the land of Karbala. You know, when the Imam, he reaches the land of Karbala, he buys the land of Karbala from Banu Asad. And he says to the men of Banu Asad, "I'm returning this land towards you. But the first condition is this, is that when we die, you bury our bodies, because I know these individuals won't bury us."
He says the second condition is that when my zawar and my visitors come towards the grave, you take care of my zawar. That even in Karbala, Sayyid al-Shuhada would remember his lovers in Karbala. The Imam says after that, go and call your women. When the women of Banu Asad they come, the Imam says, "O women of Banu Asad, I am the son of Fatima Zahra. That if your men don't bury us, then bury us within the land of Karbala as you're getting water from the Furat." But then Sayyid al-Shuhada, he turns towards the children of Banu Asad. Then look at the ghurba of Imam Al-Hussein. He says, "O children of Banu Asad, that as you're playing on the plains of Karbala, put dust upon our bodies." But you find that day it came when the 13th of Muharram was there. On one corner was the body of Abbas by the Furat. There was the body of Ali Akbar, the body of Sayyid al-Shuhada. It stated from the direction of Kufa, a man dressed in black. He begins to go through the bodies. He sees that Banu Asad is standing there. That man, he falls by the side of one body. He says, "Oh father, after you, they took your daughters as captive." It was Imam Zain al-Abidin in Karbala. You see, Banu Asad, when they looked at Imam Zainul Abidin, they recognized that this man is from Banu Hashim, but they didn't know who it was. They said, "O captive, how should we bury the bodies?" The Imam says, "Make one grave for Habib ibn Madahir. Make one grave for the Shuhada." But then Banu Asad says, "Oh man, there's a body by the Furat. When we pick one side of the body, the other side falls on the ground." Imam Zain al-Abidin says, "That is the body of my uncle Abbas. I will bury that body. No one else will bury that body." After that, Imam Zain al-Abidin, they say to the Imam, "There is the body of a youth. This youth is the one who would look like a Rasulullah." Imam Zain al-Abidin says, "That is the body of my brother Ali Akbar. Place him by the feet of his father." Then he says, "Oh Banu Asad, step back, for this is that time where only a Ma'soom can bury a Ma'soom." Imam Zain al-Abidin, he places his abba and his cloak on the ground. You know what Imam Zain al-Abidin did with that cloak? He begins to collect the pieces from the body of his father. He says, "Ya Rasulallah, adrikni." He buries Sayyid al-Shuhada. But you know, as he's burying Sayyid al-Shuhada, the riwayah, it says that a voice comes from the body of the Imam. You know what that voice would say? It would say, "Tifli, Tifli." But where is my child? Imam Zain al-Abidin says, "Oh Banu Asad, where is the body of the 6-month infant?" Imam Zain al-Abidin places Ali Asghar on the chest of his father. He writes on the grave, "هذا قبر أبي عبد الله الذي قتل غريبا شانا."
على لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين. سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. Ya Allah, we ask through the right of Imam Zainul Abidin that wherever the followers of Ahlul Bayt are in difficulty, wherever they're sick and ailing, help them. There's many who requested for dua. We heard about the family of the brother who just recited that they're in need of duas, that, oh Allah, on this night, through the right of Imam Zainul Abidin, cure them. Ya Allah, allow us to have the opportunity to do the Ziyarat of Sayyid al-Shuhada. Ya Allah, grant us the intercession of Sayyid al-Shuhada. And we pray for the hastening of the reappearance of the master of our time, Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein.
उजड़े हुए घरों से आवाज आ रही है, उजड़े हुए घरों से आवाज आ रही है। अब लौट आओ मुसाफिर, अब लौट आओ मुसाफिर, ज़हरा बुला रही है। उजड़े हुए घरों से आवाज आ रही है, उजड़े हुए घरों से आवाज आ रही है। एक साल यूं गुजारा, तकती रहे में राहें, बस ढूंढती है भैया तुमको मेरी निगाहें। अब लौट आओ अकबर, अब लौट आओ अकबर, सोगरा बुला रही है। उजड़े हुए घरों से आवाज आ रही है, उजड़े हुए घरों से आवाज आ रही है। मेहंदी लगाऊंगी मैं, सहरा सजाऊंगी मैं, अरमान है ये माँ का, दुल्हन भी लाऊंगी मैं। अब लौट आओ कासिम, अब लौट आओ कासिम, फरवा बुला रही है। उजड़े हुए घरों से आवाज आ रही है, उजड़े हुए घरों से आवाज आ रही है। ए ओन और मोहम्मद, तुम जिनमें खेलते थे, सूंजी है वो कन्या, वैरान है वो हुजरे। अब लौट आओ प्यारो, अब लौट प्यारो, दुखिया बुला रही है। उजड़े हुए घरों से आवाज आ रही है, उजड़े हुए घरों से आवाज आ रही है। माँ धूप में रहेगी, फरियाद भी करेगी, जब तक ना आओगे तुम पानी नहीं पीऊंगी। अब लौट आओ असगर, अब लौट आओ असगर, ममता बुला रही है। उजड़े हुए घरों से आवाज आ रही है, उजड़े हुए घरों से आवाज आ रही है। उम्मल बनी न रोकर कर रही है ये नोहा, तुम दश्त करबला में कुलसुम उजरे हुए घरों से आवाज आ रही है, बस वारिस अली से करते हैं दिल की बातें, फर्श अज़ा बिछा कर अब लौट आ मौला, अब लौट आ मौला, दुनिया बुला रही है, उजरे हुए घरों से आवाज आ रही है, उजरे हुए घरों से आवाज आ रही है, अब लौट आ मुसाफिर, अब लौट आ मुसाफिर, ज़हरा बुला रही है, उजरे हुए घरों से आवाज आ रही है, उजरे हुए घरों से आवाज आ रही है।
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alayka ya Rasulullah. Assalamu alayka ya Amir al-Mu'minin ya Ali ibn Abi Talib. Assalamu alayka ya Fatima al-Zahra Sayyidati Nisa al-Alamin. Assalamu alayka ya Hasan al-Mujtaba. Assalamu alayka ya Hussein Shahid bi Karbala. Assalamu alaykum jami'an shuhada Karbala wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alayka ya Ali ibn al-Hussein Zain al-Abidin. Assalamu alaykum ya Muhammad ibn Ali al-Baqir. Assalamu alaykum ya Jafar ibn Muhammad al-Sadiq. Assalamu alaykum ya Musa ibn Jafar al-Qadim. Assalamu alaykum ya Ali ibn Musa al-Rida. Assalamu alaykum ya Muhammad ibn Ali al-Taqi. Assalamu alaykum ya Ali ibn Muhammad al-Naqi. Assalamu alaykum ya Hassan ibn Ali al-Askari. Assalamu alaykum Hajjat Ali ibn al-Hassan. Ya Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman. Assalamu alaykum ya Khalifatur Rahman. Assalamu alaykum ya Sharikul Quran. Assalamu alaykum ya Imam al-Insa wal Jan. Assalamu alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Salawat.